The Nigerian economy has been classified as one of the most volatile economies in the world due to its high dependence on oil revenue. As economic instability is witnessed yearly through rising inflation, massive unemployment, low output and dwindling foreign reserves that result to unstable exchange rates, the country's economic potential is constrained by many structural issues, which includes inadequate infrastructure, tariff and non-tariff barriers, trade obstacles to investment, lack of confidence in currency valuation, limited foreign exchange capacity, and worsening insecurity, which is posing a threat to the growth of foreign direct investment into the country. Despite the expected growth of 1.8% in 2021, there is a high uncertainty about outlook as the recovery will be driven by rising crude oil exports and in domestic demand. However, Nigeria's recovery is expected to underperform those of the oil producers, and an unexpected shock to oil prices could threaten the modest growth of growth projected. Economic policy adjustments and reforms by the fiscal and monetary authorities designed to shift the country from its dependence on oil and to diversify the economy towards private sector-led growth will set Nigeria on a move and a more sustainable path to recovery. Well, I have to join me to look at some burning economic issues. She's joining me via Skype. She's the finance manager at JNC International Limited, Mrs. Yemisi Shola Oyegbade. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Tolu. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's really good to have you join us on the show. Before we go into specifics, let's do a little bit of overview of what's been playing out in our economy into a recession. We're able to come out of that recession. We still have challenges. A lot of them we can go on and on. But let's just look at the state of our economy. Funny enough, inflation figure 2 consecutive months, we've seen a decline. Does it mean that we are really growing, or what is your assessment of Nigeria's economy at the moment?
Well, thank you, Tolu. I mean, I was listening to you as you were reading out, I wouldn't call them horrid statistics, depreciation, dwindling foreign reserves, dwindling revenue levels, everything, insecurity issues, everything that can possibly be wrong. But we trust that we're going to come out of this. So if we go to the inflation, inflation, would see it moderating because of a previous year effect. The rate at which inflation grew by this period last year was actually higher than what we are seeing now. And that's why it seems as if for the second consecutive time year on year, inflation has reduced, and we're going to see it that way for a while. But if you look at the month-on-month figures, food inflation still went up. All the inflation indices, everything still went up. So, I mean, the common man will tell you, oh, you said inflation is coming down, but we are not seeing it. I mean, the prices of food is still very, very expensive. I mean, a crate of eggs, somebody was telling me a crate of egg is now 1,600. It's like about 100% increase from 800 that it used to be before. So inflation is really, really biting hard, but by the time we look at the previous year effect, you will see as if it is moderating. Now we look at growth. For the economy, the Nigerian economy, it's going to grow. It's projected to grow because a lot of money has gone into the economy. I mean, the federal government, I remember at the onset of COVID-19, they had given some relief to some people that were bringing in certain kinds of equipment into the country. I know that the central bank had given out credit. So all those targeted efforts within the economy, we're going to definitely see the effect. So the economy will definitely grow. But however, as has been mentioned from the World Bank focus review on Nigeria, I think that took place like about last week. It's a very, very fragile one because we know that the bulk of our revenue comes from foreign exchange earnings from oil, and we know that any little shake, just like you have said it, is going to really, really tip us off. So the economy will grow, but it is a very fragile growth. And as you have also rightly mentioned, because I was just listening as you were reading out the horrid statistics, it's a very, very volatile situation that we find ourselves in right now. We just have to make sure that we manage it appropriately to ensure that all the gains of all the things that the government has done. I mean, the response to COVID, the money that's been put into the economy, we see the effect, and we just keep on making what is working to work, continue working.
All right, before I follow up on that, just yesterday the Vice President met with members of the private sector, and this issue of making the environment being very conducive for business was also raised and brought to the front burner. Now, how well would you say Nigeria is really easy when you talk about doing business? How easy is doing business in Nigeria? Let me ask you that question. And if it's not that easy, what more can be done?
So we'll say that the primary, what used to be the primary concern for most businesses that wanted to set up in Nigeria was cost of power. Cost of energy was too huge. And right now you have insecurity added to it. I was actually trying to look at some stats shortly before the program for the ease of doing business, comparing Ghana with Nigeria. I realized for construction, I think it was easier to do that in Nigeria. There were some things that were in Nigeria's favor, and I think the government should try and make noise about this more. But yeah, how well is it for the private sector? We know that I would call it policy flip-flops. I mean, today you are safe. Tomorrow, one statement makes you an endangered species. So people are really, really very, very careful. The businesses want to work and run in an economy where there is consistency, where there is transparency, where there is some form of predictability. You know, where you know that you don't go to bed one person and wake up an endangered species. So government needs to work in terms of this, especially as it concerns security. Insecurity is very high. But one thing I also noticed is that I was actually asking someone also, is it that it seems as if the Nigerian security forces, they've gotten some form of more sophisticated weapons? Because 2 days ago the police dealt with some bandits and they overpowered them. Yesterday too, we were seeing, and then they've rescued students that have been kidnapped and all of those things. If the government is able to tackle primarily, which I mentioned the last time I was here, tackle primarily insecurity and make the environment more conducive. You sort out the power issue, you sort out the infrastructure issues. You know, people spend hours in traffic, you know. If we can sort out those kind of things, it's going to be easier to do business. Yes, the federal government needs the private sector, but the federal government needs to provide an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive.
That's a good one. Now let's move on with the performance of the oil and non-oil sector. Many will look at the performance of the non-oil sector. When we look at the first quarter reports, seems like we did a little well in the non-oil sector. But we'll still ask this question: is our economy fully diversified?
Well, we are on the diversification journey, but just that we have a skew. Because I mean, if you look at it, the oil sector, yeah, it's not so much a huge part of the GDP like the non-oil sector. It's just that it contributes more of the foreign revenue that we earn. So one thing that I know that the government needs to do is right now, we need to diversify. We need to diversify our revenue base so that the government can make more revenues. I mean, agriculture is there. You can earn from agriculture. You can earn from ICT. And one other thing also is, if you look at when you're calculating, if I may go a bit academic now, when you're calculating the GDP growth, there are three variables you look at. Actually, two variables. The one is a constant. You have what is called the total factor productivity. You have the capital contribution, and then you have the labor participation rate. You realize that for us as a nation, and for any nation, there needs to be adequate investment in capital, and there needs to be adequate investment in the labor. And when the government does this, the people are going to produce. For example, now we see a lot of our bright brains exiting the country. People don't want to stay. Some people leave good jobs here because A lot of people say, I want to do it for my children. It's not about me. I want to do it for my children. And you realize that we have best brains. You see different people sending different programs. I think just about, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Was last week. Somebody sent something about the American embassy, that there was a visa lottery. You don't need to do anything and all of this. And the American embassy had to be sending out disclaimers about that. People really want to live. And if you now look at what we are losing, we know how Nigerians are performing wonderful feats outside the country. Imagine that there's an enabling environment for those kind of people within the economy. We will definitely have a more robustly diversified revenue base. As it is now, our revenue base is diversified, but actually the revenue earning is skewed to one part of the base. That's what I would say. But as far we have different sources where revenue comes from, yes, we do that. It's just that we get more from the oil sector, and which is very, very volatile. And then we also know that the benefits that we should see from from any crude revenues is actually being eroded by the huge subsidy bill that has to be footed. Do you understand? So it's really a very dicey situation. But I believe that if the government can provide an enabling environment, provide the right infrastructure, let children go to school, let there be good roads. People spend a lot of time getting to work in traffic, especially in Lagos. Let there be adequate infrastructure, let there be electricity. When all those things are in place, Nigerians are not lazy people. Anywhere we find ourselves outside the country, we always excel. We will put that same zeal, that same fervency into growing our own economy. I remember in 1999 when Nigeria first came back to democracy, and how the country tried to bring in the brains that have gone out. A lot of people came back. That was how the current WTO DG, that is Professor Okonjo-Iweala, how she came on board, and the country attracted a lot. We have people that are doing great things outside the country. We just need to be able to make this place conducive. People are willing to leave right now to go and do something that is menial, because they believe there they are secure. The children can go to school, though they are public schools, but you can't be sure of the quality of education. The government can do the same thing here. Invest in the healthcare. We also what happened during COVID-19. There was no movement, nobody could go anywhere. The government needs to be able, primarily it's the government responsibility to make the environment conducive for private businesses to thrive. And when we have that, our revenue base is going to be adequately diversified.
Now, let's also look at foreign exchange management. We cannot but talk about that because we know what impact that has on all spheres of businesses. Now, particularly at this time where even the World Bank says there needs to be more transparency and predictability of the exchange rate, because this is what will make foreign investments find its way to Nigeria. Now, how well would you say the CBN, how well have they been managing the situation? Lately, they adopted the I&E window, all to try to bridge this disparity, but I tell you, it's still the same ball game.
Yeah. When this started, I mean, we've had this FX issues, I mean, for quite a while now. It's not new. And when the central bank, the current dispensation, when the central bank current whatever came in, what they tried to do, I think one of the ingenious things that was done then was to try and, which appeared to have worked at that time, give FX to different people at different levels at which they wanted it, and it worked. But I think maybe we allowed that regime for too long, because that now created opportunity for rent. You can get at this level because you know that there are different levels. You can get at the lowest level and go and drop at the highest level, and it really didn't work. And because the government wants to make sure that, okay, we want the economy to work, and they were looking for aids from the DFIs, those ones gave their conditions. You have to make this work, and you have to unify the rate, and what the central bank is doing, and I think that's a very good one, which the World Bank also commended them for. Another thing that they did, which is good, although if that one had come earlier, maybe it would have worked better, was the making sure that people got their diaspora remittances in actual dollars. You know, probably if that had come much earlier, it would have helped a lot, because, I mean, by the time it was coming, people had found other solutions that were working for them, and it's not easy bringing them here. So, yeah, our reserves, I mean, it's been dropping. We are currently at about 33 point something. It's been dropping. And without, because we are an import dependent nation, without foreign exchange, we cannot bring in the things we require, and the export, the revenues that we generate from what we export is not sufficient to cover it. So we have that gap, and it's a crisis, and we can see the effect on the devaluation of the naira. Last week, I know that at the parallel market, the naira gained, I think, up to like about 480, but it has reversed all those gains now, because at that time it was speculated that the central bank was going to come to that, was talking tough and all of that, but it has reversed because the primary reason, because it's just a matter of demand and supply. The primary reason is there is more demand than there is supply. So we need to go and enable sectors that would bring in FX revenue for the economy beyond oil. It's when we are able to earn more than we spend, that's when we're going to be able to have sufficiency. And there are several ways we can do that. Yes, the government has tried to, do Nigeria, eat Nigeria, grow Nigeria, and all of that. But we need to see it starting from the top. The children will always do what you do. I remember once, permit me to tell the story. I had a boss, we were doing some delivery runs, and I had a boss that didn't have an AC, and I wanted a driver for it. And then my little son then asked me, "Mommy, have you now repaired the AC of the bus?" I said, "No." She said, "Okay, you can't drive it, and you want someone else to come and drive it." And I was like, wow, from the eyes of a child. If the government can do that, you want us to do Nigeria. You do Nigeria. We will all do Nigeria. Do you understand? And we would not have to grapple with these FX issues that we have. We are going to be able to, what we produce is what we eat, and up to a point, we'll be able to produce more than what we require, and then we'll begin to export. Nigeria has the potential to become easily the food basket of the nation, even with the free trade zone that is being proposed and all of that. But without our exports being more than our import, we will continue to have the FX issues that we have.
Thanks for explaining that very in-depth explanation there from you. Almost wrapping up now. Let's now look at projections. With all of as it looks gloomy, there are still some beautiful projections that Nigeria might grow at 1.8%. Talking about GDP in 2021. I talked about this earlier in the week, and it looks like a tall order to me. I don't know how we're going to do that, but I don't know how that comes to you and what you expect. It's a two-in-one question. The second one, which I don't know if you want to talk about, but it's very important, I know you will want to talk about it, is World Bank saying we need the full removal or elimination of fuel subsidy for us to stabilize. Don't forget, NNPC has not been remitting to FAC in like 2 months.
Wow, thank you, Tolu. On GDP growth, the government has invested a lot, with the World Bank also, identified with the COVID initiative, what the central bank did, the direct transfers that the government did. All this are going to make the economy grow. The only thing is that we just pray that there will be no shock to our major source of revenue. If there is no shock to that, and we keep on with, from the MPC report that was released at the last MPC meeting in May, the credit to the economy grew. If the credit to the private sector grows, I say now is the time that the government should. Maybe you can pick like about 4 or 5 companies in technology, in agric, like we've done with Dangote, like it's been done with Dangote, and you support these people. We grow the economy. What is it that they require? You want to bring in machinery, you bring in this machinery, zero import duty, we're going to give you this. It's been done before. You need FX, we can give you FX as a subsidized rate, anything that the government can do. If this is done for certain identified sectors of the economy, we're going to grow. There is no how we're not going to grow. We will definitely grow. And most importantly, the winning streak that I see that the Nigerian security forces have had in the past how many days concerning the armed bandits, if that is continued, and people, you can imagine, they were talking about the anchor borrowers program, people could not make remittance, they could not repay their loans, and they said because of insecurity. And somebody is saying, when did insecurity start? Insecurity has started over time, it's just that now it is full-blown. It's been happening for a long time, you know. So, but if the government tackles all those things, insecurity, you tackle energy, you make the environment conducive, we will definitely grow, because by that time, we would put efforts towards the sectors of the economy that are non-oil, and we're going to diversify our revenue base. And whatever shock comes from that side, from the oil side, we will not feel it too much. Now, if I will go to full removal of subsidy, it's a matter I'm very, very passionate about. I said it last week. I've said it. I mean, the last time I was there, Nigerians, yeah, the world that we spend 100 billion CD every month. But I remember when this government first came in, fuel was at 87, and it went like, was it 125 then? They said it was going to be free floating, it was 160 something, only for us to realize that it was a leashed deregulation. You know, when you have your dog on a leash, you can't run too far, you bring it back. You know, it was a leashed deregulation, and we found ourselves, if it had been done at that time, genuinely, we would have gotten over it. But right now, people don't even know what to believe. What we see here is a trust deficit. People definitely have been in places where some people with private arrangement, they pay up like maybe 100 naira per kilowatt, and you have your 24/7 electricity, 120. People are willing to pay. Now, that one is now talking about energy. If you know that whatever it is you're giving up, you're going to earn it somewhere. But you can't be surprised if we say that we are taking away the subsidy and it rests its head in another way. There is a trust deficit. The government needs to be able to, needs the people to see that it is walking its talk. You walk the talk, you walk the talk, and people will fall in line. It is all about trust. When the trust is not there, I know it's insane to be spending that much on all subsidy. But are there leakages? What has the government done to plug all the areas? We know that PMS is selling more expensive outside the country. Have those leakages been blocked? If those have been blocked, if everything has been done, okay, so that is it. Now, and what about cost of governance? I know that one of the governors has started doing something like that. What about the cost of governance? What savings can we make from here? When we make all those savings, we put it in a sector of the economy that is going to drive growth. See the railways that have been just recently opened. I know that all those places where those trains will be stopping, economic activity will boom in those kind of places. Do you understand? So those are the kind of infrastructural development that we want the government to do more of this. Take it from here, put it here, and by the time that starts growing, then we can now start talking about removal of fuel subsidy. But right now, there is nothing for the people. I was just listening to something this morning that banana that you buy for 500, it now goes like about 2,000. I just mentioned a crate of eggs is going for 1,600 right now. Before, you used to be able to get bread for 200, 250. Right now, bread is going for like 500. In fact, I know of a particular store that you can get some very crazy breads for thousands. You know, so it is. The government needs to be. The people need to be able to see that the government is committed. When people know that government is committed and that trust is regained, the government can remove. And there won't be any hard feelings about it. But right now, the issue is, if this goes away, because they told us before that this thing was going to go, won't it come back in another form? That is just it. And that is my position. The government, 100 billion is too much to lose every month. But have all the necessary holes been plugged? If all the necessary holes have been plugged, where else can we get cost savings? When we get this cost savings, let's put them in this so and so place, let them be generating there, then we can now look into this side. That is where I stand.
All right, beautiful way to leave it there. Finance Manager, GNC International Limited, Mrs. Yemisi Shola-Egbade. Really nice talking to you this afternoon. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tolu. Thank you for having me once again. It's nice to be with you on the show.
All right, then.